Okay, the recording has started. Actually, I'm gonna unpin you, and then we could all introduce ourselves, and then I'll pin Jalissa when we start the questions. If that sounds good. All right, Tia, do you want to go ahead and introduce and start it off?
I'm Tia. And, intern for this quarter. Probably not the next quarter, but I will keep engaging by like try to train myself for the peer-to-peer groups and like classes, just not getting course credit anymore. A little sidetrack. But yeah, I'm here because I'm interested in mental health advocacy and I want to be a therapist in the future and I hope to see like the nonprofit organization like service aspect of it and yeah, it was nice meeting everyone at NAMI.
Yeah. Um, I could go ahead and introduce myself. Nice to meet you, Jalissa. I'm Michaela. I'm also another intern. Yeah, I'm a senior, so I'm gonna graduate. So sad, but excited. I am also hoping to stay in the field of mental health. But I am pre-med, so I'm planning to go to med school and hopefully become like a psychiatrist or maybe a neurologist. Definitely still far into the future, but yeah. Cassandra, do you want to go ahead?
Neuropsych, close.
Yeah.
Neuropsych.
Okay, I'll go next. My name is Cassandra, and I'm also a NAMI intern, and I'm also a fourth year psych and poli-sci major. So I'm also graduating in the month. And yeah, I'm just very interested in the area of mental health. I don't know exactly what I want to do yet, but I know that somewhere in that field, I feel like I would enjoy it a lot. So that's why I'm interning here. So I feel like it would be a good experience. So.
I'm so happy for you all and congratulations on your upcoming graduations and all the changes that'll happen over this next year or two. I know it's another transition period, which is always kind of like, woo, what's happening? So just keep swimming. That's what my son says, just keep swimming. You'll get through there. You'll make it. For myself, my name is Jolissa Hebard, and I am the outreach supervisor right now for NAMI West LA, moving into more programs and our family programs as we go towards the end of the year here. I started with NAMI in around 2015. My son attempted suicide at the age of 17. His suicide attempt left him with a traumatic brain injury, paralysis, and he is now legally blind. And when in the hospital, I had several friends that finally disclosed that they had lost a loved one to suicide, whether it was their sister or their uncle or grandfather or somebody, and they just never talked about it. They never talked about that loss or that person, and the medical community did not expect my son to survive or to really have any quality of life. And so for me, I thought, how can I just never talk about him again? Like how could I just act like that part of my life didn't exist? And I quickly realized that that couldn't happen, and decided, especially once once he was getting better and would survive and actually did have some quality of life, that I would not stop talking about it. And that's kind of what NAMI. I had a friend from another job, and she was doing stuff, and I saw her posting on Facebook, and I was like, what is this that you're doing? What's going on? How are you talking about this? What's happening? And she introduced me to NAMI, and I just started by volunteering, taking the classes and getting involved. And then that kind of snowballed into a part-time role, which then snowballed into some grant writing. And, here we are like 6-7 years later, and I'm just so grateful for all the opportunities that have been given to me. I did not go to college. My story did not take me did not take me there, took me to some other places first. And so it's kind of odd, because now in this role I have taught college professors. So it's been a real interesting life journey for me to become this mental health advocate. And I am a certified peer specialist. I teach mental health first aid and QPR, and I ending the silence for NAMI.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that's
And
a little bit.
really thank you for like sharing the experience with yourself and like your son. And that was really inspiring as well to hear the story, and really powerful to hear about it during the QPR training. Like it really gave me a lot of like insights on how should we like treat this topic. And yeah, and also you basically kind of covered our first question. So yeah, you just nailed it. And you also talked about the specific roles and responsibilities you have within the organization. And how do you feel like about your role? How does it integrate into the whole mission of NAMI? Yeah, how do you think the specific roles has contributed to NAMI's mission?
I've been really blessed to be, I sometimes joke like I have a big mouth and I'm not afraid to use it. And so I feel like that's been one of the greatest things about my work with NAMI, is just being able to really get out there and talk about this stuff, share not only what's happened with myself and my son and my sister. My younger sister is diagnosed with bipolar. I live with major depression, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. So this is family for me. This is, multi-generational for me. And my role here has been to really talk to people, connect with people, and let people know, like our sign says, you're not alone. And many people feel alone, don't know where to turn, don't know what's safe, who's safe, where can I talk about this, where am I going to get the right information. And for me, it's been such a blessing to be able to do that, to share this with others and let people know that recovery is possible, and things do get better, and it doesn't look the same for everybody, but I do believe that recovery is possible, and that many people have much more hope and promise and possibility and potential than oftentimes they're given that credit for.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think definitely like sharing personal stories and kind of being willing to take the first step, being like in a vulnerable position, like, and will really help other people to open up as well, and that really provide them a safe space. And and again, you covered our questions about your personal experience, kind of relating to your experience at NAMI. But we are also a little more curious about like, what are some like specific perspectives that you have, like in the position you have, or like in the relationship with other staff at NAMI? Like, how does that integrate with your personal experience? And is there anything like, is there any new perspective shaped while you're working at NAMI? Yeah.
I feel like, especially with NAMI West LA, we are really blessed with our team. We have a great team here. Because we're still kind of small, we're a large organization, a national organization, and we have, the area affiliates and things like that. But we're still a small but mighty group. And so it really does feel more like a little family. We, are able to connect and share in both our, our struggles and our successes, and just the sensitivity of all of the team members. I have worked in corporate America. I've worked in manufacturing. I've worked in all kinds of different in different industries, and it's really nice to be at a place that values their people, and that doesn't necessarily, it's not just exclusive to the fact that we're a mental health nonprofit, because I've worked in other places that are similar to that as well, but it is the idea that we all really care deeply about the work that we're doing, and really have a passion for it, and are willing to step up and go the extra mile, because we've been there. We've been on the other side of that table, on the other side of that phone call, on the other side of that support session, and needed that same care and love and gentleness, and there really is no, you know, preparation for that is like going through it. And so to see that and be a part of that, and you know, my son and I often joke when we go to Ending the Silence that we're going out to save lives again, you know, like here we go out to save the world. And as much as that is like a little joke for us, I know that we are doing that, that we are actually making a difference and saving lives and helping people find a different path or a different option or a different, you know, solution to what they may have been thinking or feeling or, you know, experiencing before. And so for that, I mean, how do you even quantify how wonderful that is? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, yes, it's nice to get my, you know, to have my bills paid and things like that, but I fully believe that when I pass on from this world, I will be able to see the impact that I've made across all these lives. Like that for me is why I do this. It's not because I want to be rich or famous or, you know, any of those things. It's because somewhere, somehow we are doing that. And even though I may never see in this life what happens with those people or how my story affected them when they saw us in their, you know, 7th grade history class, or they, you know, heard us speak at an assembly in high school, I might never ever see how that has affected them, but I know it is. And so for that, like that to me is just like I said, like, how do you quantify that? How do you say how much that's worth? Because it's truly priceless, like truly priceless to know that you are having that kind of an impact in the community. And no other job, like no other job that I know has afforded me this. And I've worked in hospitals, I've worked in emergency rooms, so it's interesting to know.
Definitely, yeah. I think like from your perspective, kind of like just kind of like seeing all different kinds of like people passing by, and like but you're like, I've been on your position, now I'm here, and like being like in this mutually helpful like position, like using your stars to inspire others, is definitely empowering for both you and them. And I believe there will be some long-term positive influence on them as well. And I'm really glad to see that you're so excited about like sharing experience and NAMI, and like we can't wait to hear more. So like next up, Cassandra will ask you more like specific questions about like how you think about NAMI.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'll start off. So as you're, you know, as a superhero working for NAMI throughout all these experiences, can you recall like a particular accomplishment or success story that you can recall?
Oh man, there's been quite a few. I would say probably one of the most like impactful moments, we did a series of Ending the Silence at a local school that's K through 8. So we were actually able to provide Ending the Silence for their entire 6th grade class, the entire 7th grade class, and the entire 8th grade class. And during one of those presentations, as we're speaking, because many times, you know, there's a lot of people in the audience, you're trying to connect with people, but you're not really sure. And during one point of the presentation, when I was sharing something that I had felt or experienced myself, there was a young man in the audience, and he put his hand over his heart, and I could read his lips, and he said, "That's me." And he's in 6th grade, he's struggling, and finally feels like he's connected to something that's been inside of him. I don't know if you know, given that life path that I went on without hearing that in 6th grade, for me to see like we're connecting, and this child is going to have a different outcome in their life because of that. To me, that is like so powerful to know that, like, oh my gosh. And there's a lot of times where, you know, school site staff, they may know certain kids, right? They know, oh, we kind of knew that there was something going on there, or we kind of knew about that family. And oftentimes it's when they hear our stories that they really feel safe to disclose what's going on. And as much as it's a little bit scary sometimes to go into a school and kind of feel like, okay, we just like exposed all these other kids that need help, you know, like sometimes I feel like I kind of like walk in and like drop a little bomb, like, here you go, here's a whole bunch more work for you, school counselors. But at the same time, like, they're getting that help and recognition so much earlier. Like, to me, that is so powerful that we have now so many school psychologists and school counselors and resource centers and wellness centers available to students that that can really help. You know, because I live in Long Beach and I was primarily working in Long Beach, there is a lot of very impacted schools that we go to, and to see that kids have a safe space at school now where maybe they didn't ever have a safe space before, or even if school was their safe space because they were hiding in the bathroom or because they were, you know, had their friends, but they didn't have a professional to explain what anger is, or, you know, anxiety, or how to deal with these feelings. I just feel like we are also blessed right now because we have this awareness and this push to like expand this stuff. And this was part of the topic at the panel I was on last night about student mental health, and the fact that kids are talking about this stuff sooner. They are being more aware of, hey, I'm having these feelings, or I'm becoming overwhelmed, or, you know, even if they're maybe going to the other side, like, oh, I have so much anxiety about this test. Like, you know, it's like, okay, let's think about how we can use those words more appropriately. But it's that idea of like, they're talking about it, they want to talk about it, there is this information out there. So I feel like there's a huge shift that's happening with our young people. And as always, the younger generation is, you know, makes the changes and makes things happen. So I feel like that's why I'm very excited about the work we do with NAMI, because we are able to make those connections. And even though the work, our support groups in our classes are for people over 18, we are putting this name out to these kids that are 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th graders. So they're hearing NAMI way before they're even going to need it, way before they're even going to be, you know, experiencing some of this stuff. And many times in my ending the silence, I'll say, I understand if you don't think that this is having any effect on you right now, but I promise you, sometime something's going to happen and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that lady was right. This is the time. And I feel like that's where the kind of power is putting this information in their hands before they need it, so that they know where to go when they do need it.
Yeah, that's amazing, especially, you know, just creating that safe space for the younger generation to speak out more about mental health. But you kind of answered like the next question as well. I don't know if you want to add to it, but it's, what do you think sets NAMI West LA apart from other mental health organizations, and how do you see like its impact? If there's anything you can add to that as well.
I definitely think that because we all have that lived experience with this, and because there is such a broad base of experience, you know, there's other groups that specifically focus on, you know, depression or bipolar, or specifically focus on, you know, psychosis, schizophrenia, or specifically focus on anxiety or eating disorders, or, you know, whatever it is. Which is great. This is fantastic. I love the specialized focus, but I feel like mental health, it's like an umbrella, you know, and so many different things fall under that, whether it's a diagnosable condition or whether it's just, I don't really feel great, or I'm really struggling, or I'm really stressed out, or, you know, I don't I have body image issues, whatever those things are, even if it doesn't go to the level of being a diagnosable situation, we can talk about it. We have that ability to kind of cross all these different layers of what mental health is, especially because we don't, have those specialized groups. So you get much more of a breadth of information and so many more resources and so many more, stories and things like that, not only in our classes, but in our support groups, because we do have people coming from all different cultures, all different socioeconomic levels, all different experiences, and that just makes our reach that much further. So we're able to go into more communities, more areas, and support people. I feel like we're at a transition phase ourselves, because as an organization, we're growing and getting there, and so right now it's like, okay, as we grow, how do we keep the things that are really working for us, and we need to like lucky for us to be here right now and doing this.
Just to like kind of, you know, go more into it, what do you think is like our pressing challenges or changes that we need in the mental health field today?
Challenges, I think, is universally is the stigma and the shame. People not wanting to talk about it, people not understanding even what it is. Different cultures have different experiences and opinions when it comes to mental health. And we just, that's why the more folks we have from the different communities, the better, because then, when you speak the language and you look like that, and you're able to say, hey, I understand. Also, maybe that's not right. Maybe we shouldn't be, telling people that they're not sick, or telling people just to go to church and pray it away, or telling people, like the different things that happen, or, telling people don't take that medicine, it's going to make you crazy. Like, these are things I've heard out there. This is things I know from personal experience with other friends that happen. And so the more we have that, those communications in those conversations, the better, and the more that we have, providers and clinicians and social workers that look like you all, as opposed to me, then the better we will be able to reach into some of those communities that are really struggling, and that's kind of all we can hope for, is how do we connect more people to services and supports so that they don't feel like they're alone.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that there's a lot of stigma with that, and that many people are ashamed to even reach out for help. So I feel like NAMI does a great job at, trying to provide as many resources and to let them know that, you're not alone in this situation. So
I was recently at a resource fair, and there was these two gentlemen that came up to the table, and they looked to be of East Asian, like maybe even to the Middle East a little bit. And I get through my whole spiel about NAMI, and one of them looks at me and just says, no. And I was like, no. What do you mean no? And very polite, stood there the whole time, listening, didn't walk away, but just like the only response was no, which I was like, 1 in 5 people, like 1 in 5 people are struggling. It's not a no question. Like, we have to be able to talk about these things, and it's interesting because sometimes within different cultures, there's like a different perspective on some of these things, especially within like the Eastern and like psychosis. A lot of times in schizophrenia, people that struggle with those things in third world countries are often treated as like better because they feel like they're connected to an angel or to spirits or something like that. And so it's interesting because you have this dynamic of, we kind of praise some of this stuff, but at the same time, we're not going to admit that that it might be mental illness. You know what I mean? And so the more that we start to have some of those conversations, because I, for one, would love if we in this country would be more accepting and more open and caring for people that were living with psychosis, as opposed to just looking at them like, why can't you get yourself together? Or, you know, that's, you're delusional and that's not real, you know? So maybe we can pull some of the good stuff and and then help with some of the stuff that needs help with.
Okay, for this next part, I'm gonna pass it over to Michaela.
Yeah, thank you. So we're nearing the end of the interview. 3 more questions, so far so good. So you kind of already talked about how the dialogue surrounding mental health is changing. So kind of going along with that, how do you envision the future of mental health services evolving, and how do you think NAMI is going to adapt to those changes?
Well, I'm very excited to see like the Medi-Cal peer support specialist opportunities opening up, and more of the certifications and training for peers. I really believe that that is a place for a huge workforce development explosion, and that can really, really help. Because it's a different dynamic than a clinical role, or, you know, and I feel like that is where we definitely have an opportunity to provide more support and more education and really get people connected without costing so much. Police departments and schools are typically underfunded, and if we're able to help provide that type of support that doesn't cost the schools as much, because they're not paying a clinician, but they're paying peers to be around on campuses more often, I feel like that's a huge place that we could help and benefit. Right now with our Cal Hope grant, which is going to be ending quickly here, we were contracted and able to provide one-to-one support. And from what I have experienced myself with some of those, and from what my team is experiencing, those appointments and those conversations are highly impactful for peers, you know. And when you look at, if you go to your therapist once a week, how much does that cost? How much, you know, like, I don't know about everybody else, but like my son's health insurance only covers 2 visits at a copay for a mental health visit, and the rest of it has to come out of pocket. So basically, he doesn't have any mental health care coverage through his health insurance company. His suicide attempt cost them like $3 million, but they're still not providing mental health care as part of his insurance plan. But a one-to-one session with a peer that's been trained, that can help, can offset some of that, can make it so maybe you don't have to see your therapist every week, and you can see them once a month, or you can see them, you know, once, twice, bi-monthly, or whatever it is, to help with that, because that's a huge cost and not a lot of people can afford it. I mean, even when you look at sliding scale therapy and stuff like that, if even sometimes $35 or $40 a session, if you're going 4 times a month, that's a lot. You know, that's you know, a credit card payment, or a car payment, or an insurance payment, or something, you know, like that's a lot. So I feel like there's a lot of room for more growth within the mental health community, and ways that we can utilize folks to help in some of these situations, because we do have a lack of clinicians available, because we do have, you know, people that need jobs and work that could use a little understanding when it comes to that stuff. So I feel like that's definitely something that we can do. And educating the community. I mean, the way that we connect with people, and the lives that I have seen changed from attending our family to family or our peer-to-peer classes, and finally understanding that it's not your fault. It's not that your child is defective. It's not that your brother is, defective. It's just something that happened. It's just a thing that happened. And here's how you get through it. And here's how maybe it might have come about. And here's what some medications might do. And, those types of things, because I really believe that knowledge is power. And the more that we learn about these things, the more it becomes like, oh, okay. Like, for me, I thought, when I was a teenager, I was like, oh my gosh, why am I so stupid? Why am I so crazy? Why can't I just be normal? And then you get older, you go through some things, you realize, oh, because of this attachment style, or because of this thing that happened, or all these things. And the more you learn, then you're like, oh, okay, I'm better able to cope and to deal with this. And most people in the world don't know very much at all about mental health, or where mental health challenges come from, or why people struggle. And I have a friend, and I say this joke quite often, that there's only two kinds of people: diagnosed and undiagnosed. So it's the idea that, like, we all have these thoughts, sometimes these feelings, these struggles, but we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to admit it. We don't want to say, oh yeah, that's happened to me too. But then we're left feeling alone. And for me, I don't understand that. I don't understand that. I don't understand not talking about stuff. Like, I have too big of a mouth, and I'll just talk about anything, but I don't understand that. And I'm the type of person that I want to talk about things that are real, not the things that are fake. You're not going to ever really catch me talking about, like, pop culture, or like, did you see what so-and-so wore to the Grammys? Like, I don't usually have those conversations, because I'm more like, wait, what's going on with you? What's happening? What are you going through? What's happening there? Or, do you need help? Or do you want to just vent or talk? And those are the things that I feel like the more opportunities we give people to express that stuff, the better we all become as a society.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. I think accessibility is always going to be an issue with the mental health sphere, which is unfortunate. But I think also you were mentioning early that diversifying the mental health field will also improve, I guess. So hopefully that's something that we can see in the future. Yeah. So our next question is, could you share some tips and strategies that you find helpful for maintaining good mental health?
Oh, tips and strategies. My favorites. I believe that everything happens for a reason. Sometimes the reason sucks. Sometimes we don't know what the reason is. And so for me, I have just become in acceptance of that things are going to happen in my life that I don't necessarily understand in the moment, and I just walk through it. And later on down the line, it will be revealed to me what that lesson was, or what that situation was, or why it was. So I don't focus so much on the whys anymore, because I'll figure that out later, So for me, it's about, I believe that everything happens for a reason. And so there must be a reason that this is happening. And that I started saying that when I first got sober, which was 7 years before my son's attempt. So you better believe that on the day that he attempted, where I was like, really, you think everything happens for a reason? Even this? They're literally carrying him out of your house right now. You think that? And I was like, no, yes, I do. I have to believe that everything happens for a reason. The other thing I believe is that this too shall pass, no matter what. No matter if it's the worst time of your life or the best time of your life, nothing stays the same forever. And I feel like a lot of times when we get in those feelings, when we think, oh my gosh, I'm going to feel like this forever, I'm always going to have this fear, or this depression, or this anxiety, or when we get in that's, of course, you're going to be miserable if you think you are going to be miserable forever. But the truth is that things do change. Nothing stays the same forever. We are always working off of incomplete data every day. We don't know. More will be revealed every day. So you just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and understanding that this too shall pass. So for me, like, probably circa 19 in 2020, I was like, you know what? It's been really quiet in my house for like a while. It's been like very like, this is how things are going. My daughter's in junior high and high school. My son's in college. This is how things are going. And all of a sudden, everything changed. It feels like my entire life was on a table and somebody flipped that table upside down in 2021. And I'm still waiting to see where some of those pieces are going to land. And I know, because I'm old now, it'll end. And I will go back to that, oh, everything's kind of quiet. It's been like this for a certain amount of time. And I thought it was going to go this way. So this too shall pass. And then, of course, my most favorite thing in the whole wide world, without the sour, there is no sweet. Without a bad day or a bad time, we have nothing to compare it to. So we have to, as part of our experience on this planet, we have to have a bad time. We have to have a bad day. That's just the way that it goes. There is no, there is no life out there that is always happy, that is always going to be, ready for an Instagram post. Like, no, even those people have bad days and bad hair days and bad times. Like, so we have to understand that part of our experience, part of what causes our experience is struggle. We are silly animals that don't learn unless we hurt. And that is what I have really experienced, is that the most growth, the most awareness, the most change happens when we go through a period of pain. And we can't avoid that. So trying to avoid that pain, trying to get out of it quicker, trying to think I shouldn't be ever feeling bad or sad or low. No, you're going to have those feelings, but it's about understanding those feelings aren't facts. They're not going to last forever. You can walk through this. There are other people who have walked through something similar that can help you, and then all of a sudden you're like, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. There is a reason that this stuff is happening. There is, it will end. And I now can accept that this did happen for a reason. Believe me, I did not think this when I was 24. When I was 24 and I was, living out of my car and getting arrested and, not being a good mom and all these things. And I was like, why is this happening to me? But I walked through all of that. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, I know. Now I know. Now I got it. Now it makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think as bad as it sounds, you kind of need the bad days to appreciate the good days, and that also gives you perspective. So whenever you're in one of your bad days, you know that it's not always going to be like this. That's also something that like always gets me going. So I definitely agree. All
There's
right.
one of my favorite song lyrics says, "It's not a party if it happens every night."
Yeah.
And that's true. And believe me, I lived the life of a party every single night, and it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
So exactly like that.
Yeah. All right. So for our final question, thank you again for doing this interview. So this is just a space for you. If you have any message that you would like to share to anybody who might be struggling with mental health or seeking support, and if there's any other resources or information you want to get them, this is your time.
Woo! Well, I would say probably the biggest, most impactful thing that I have learned over the last couple of years is polyvagal theory. And you all are new, so I hope maybe somebody's talked about this at some point in one of your classes. In 1994, I think, 1994, 95, research Dr. Stephen Porges developed the polyvagal theory to talk about how the vagus nerve affects our whole entire body. And for me to understand that my my body is not trying to keep me feeling safe and warm and happy. My body does not care about my emotions at all, actually. My body's sole job is to keep me alive. And I believe that we are a triune being, meaning we have a body, we have a mind, and we have a soul, which are three kind of different things. And our bodies are always trying to read the area around us and make sure that we are safe. And for those of us that grew up like me in a situation that was traumatic and abusive, my body was rewired to think that everything is going to attack me because my caregivers were not trustworthy. The people that I should have connected with and attached to were not safe for me. And so my body was telling me, you're not safe all the time, even in situations where I was safe. And this idea is where I believe that I started to have some of those negative thoughts and those negative self-talk of, why can't I just be normal? What's wrong with me? Why am I freaking out in school and fighting with the substitute teacher or like getting kicked out or whatever the thing was? And it's because my body is taking over my brain, literally taking over my whole brain. And that to me was like, oh my gosh, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. It's not because I was stupid. It's not because I was defective. It's because the things that happened to me told my body that things weren't safe. Like, to me, that was so just mind-blowing. And the idea that we now can pay attention to what's happening in our bodies so that we don't go to those levels. Paying attention to where you're feeling it, if it's in your chest, if your breathing tightens, if your shoulders scrunch up, if your legs feel like they're glued to the floor, or whatever it is that's happening when those things start to happen, we start to paying attention to those a little bit more and can then maybe not go into those other steps of becoming super triggered or having a fight flight response, which now we're no longer able to access our decision making. For me, that was huge. For me, that's been the most exciting thing I've learned in the last couple of years, is that my body is actually working just fine. And this is definitely really important for people that, especially for women who have experienced a sexual assault or sexual abuse, because a lot of times when with women in those dangerous situations, many times the oldest reaction, the oldest safety feature that our bodies have, going all the way back to when we were reptiles, is to shut down and freeze and play dead. And those are things that happen without us being cognitively aware. And a lot of times in a rape situation or a sexual assault or a sexual violation, our bodies decide to shut down and freeze, where we don't move and we don't scream and we don't fight people off. And then after, it becomes this idea of, well, you didn't say no, you didn't fight, from either the perpetrator saying, I didn't do that because you didn't fight, or from ourselves or our friends or our family saying, well, why didn't you kick him? Or why didn't you scream? Or why didn't you do this? And for generations, I mean, still happening today, people are thinking it's their own fault and I should have done this or that or whatever. And truthfully, no, your body was doing exactly what it's designed to do, keep you alive. You would not, your body decided in that moment, without your brain even coming online, that this was going to be the safest thing for you. So you can't, that idea that you should have, could have, would have is just thrown out the window, because it's not even possible. That to me, like for that alone has been just a huge, like, wow, like from many different situations in my life where I'm like, oh, okay, that's what was happening to me. Number one, that being aware of that stuff. There's so much happening right now in the field of mental health, things that are, I feel like slowly Western medicine is kind of proving some Eastern medicine beliefs. Meditation, yoga, mindfulness, these are things that have been around for generations within Eastern philosophies. And now we're starting to put together the science behind it, that it actually does change your brain chemistry, your brain structure, that it does have these benefits. So the more that we start to explore those types of things and get those types of things out there, where people understand that this isn't just some like, hippie hooey like science, like pseudoscience. No, it's real science, and there are all kinds of things that we can do to help our mental health. It's kind of funny, because I read recently that dancing is actually scientifically better for depression than some depression medicines. And I really, for me, with my personal story, having been in the middle of a depression in the middle of Hollywood as a go-go dancer, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That's what saved me. Dancing is actually what saved my life, and it continues to save my life to this day. So for me, it's like, oh, okay, like there are things that we can do, and you know, the more you educate yourself, the better the outcome is, you know, and
Yeah.
people can change.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you. It sounds like you've lived many lives. You were a go-go dancer, so many different paths. So yeah, it's amazing.
And that's what I try to tell kids when I'm in school and stuff, and even for you all, because let me tell you another story. One of my very best friends is a psychologist. She was the director of a substance use live-in home for people with substance use. She was a director of that. She went back to school. She finished her master's. She got her doctorate, and she no longer wants to work in this field.
Oh, wow.
So guess what? Things can change all the time. We, like, when I tell the high schoolers, go in the direction of your dreams, but be okay to pivot, know that it's okay. It's okay. And you will figure it out. Like, and you will have so many lives inside of this life. I feel like at this age, you probably can already grasp that because you've had maybe one other life inside of this life yet, you know, high school jobs, or, you know, those kind of things where you're like, oh, there's this happening. I kind of understand that. But you will have so many other lives, and your lives will take you all these different places that you could never have imagined. And that's the one thing that like I tell my son, and we talk about, is that like, well, don't leave before the end of your movie. Because I feel like my life is one big old movie that I'm the star of. That like I have had all these experiences and all these things and a great soundtrack and some, you know, all these things, but I still don't know how it's going to end. I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up. I don't necessarily know when I'm actually going to grow up. So we're all just figuring it out as we go. And so there is really no wrong choice. You'll decide this, and you'll go this way, and that won't work, and you'll figure something out. I mean, manufacturing, restaurants, hospitals, go-go dancer, like so many different things that I've just done.
Yeah.
And now here I am, this mental health advocate, and yet, you know, my husband and I bought a hotel in Northern California, and we're like innkeepers now.
Oh,
It's
wow.
all over the place. I know. This is what I'm telling you. Your lives will just do the same thing, because you'll go into your career, and then you're going to meet somebody and want to have a kid or not want to have a kid, or want to get married or not want to get married, or whatever the thing is. And all of a sudden you're going to be like, I never in a million thought this was going to be where I ended up. And the more that we start to understand that, because especially I think as kids, we're taught to think like, oh, this is how life goes.
Yeah.
Nobody's life goes like that. Maybe, you know, 100 years ago when you were forced to have your life go like that, then it went like that, but it doesn't really go like that anymore. And that's okay. So whatever happens, whether you're like, oh no, I didn't get that fellowship, or I didn't get that job, it's because there's something else that's meant for you. And what is meant for you can never be kept from you. And that's what I know for 100%. Because there has been things that I'm like, oh, I really, 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 really want this. And it didn't happen. But then something else happened, and you're like, oh, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
You know, what is meant for you will never be kept from you. So you have no fear if you don't get the job, or you don't get the car loan, or you don't get the girl or the guy or whatever it is. It's because it wasn't meant for you, and you're going to be okay either way. You
Yeah.
will be okay.
I think that's a perfect place to end it. Our stories are not linear, and what you said, or what did you say? Our stories don't have to end here. I like that.
Yeah. No, we just get to keep going and going and going and see what happens, and then all of a sudden you're going to be looking back and you're like,
Yeah.
gosh, who would have thought? If somebody would have told me when I was 17 or 24 or 32 that this is me, I would have been like, I don't know what you're talking about. There's no way. And so now I'm like, I wonder what else is going to happen.
Yeah,
What
that's
else
the
am I
exciting
never
part.
gonna have,
That's the exciting part.
right? And then you're like, okay, I can do this. I can get through this one day at a time, dealing with whatever it is that I'm dealing with right now, because eventually there will be something great and wonderful, and I'll look back and be like, holy geez, can't even believe that.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jalissa, so much for the interview.
Mm.
We're now gonna
Thank
move to the game portion of this. It should take like no more than 5 minutes. It's a this or
you.
that game. I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
Mm.
So it's centered around mental health and a wellness edition. So basically, we're gonna give you like I could do a sample one. So we're gonna ask you a question like, "Oh, for your morning routine, do you prefer meditation or journaling?" And so you would say meditation or journaling, whatever you prefer. So like this or that. Does that make sense?
Okay. Mhm.
Okay. And this is supposed to be more fun, so if you like want to add anything to it, you can. Um, so yeah. All right, I'll go ahead and start off with like the first three. So if you're doing a stress relief activity, do you prefer to exercise or read?
Read,
Read?
read for sure. Mhm.
Okay. And let's see, coping mechanism. Do you prefer talking to a friend or writing in a journal?
Ooh, that's a toss up for me. That's a real toss up. Tie? Can I have a
A
tie?
tie? Okay. Both this and that.
I would say I would prefer writing in a journal when my friends are not available, or when I feel like I have talked about this way too much with my friends and I need to stop talking about it because even I am sick of hearing about it. So I'm just gonna write it down.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. For your relaxation technique, do you prefer listening to music or taking a bubble bath? Is that a
That's
hard one?
difficult because I'm like, okay, so taking a bath always sounds nice to me, but then I get in there and I'm really hot, and then I'm like, eat like I can't be in this bath. And I want to, like, I so want to be in there and like lay and relax, but then I'm like, oh my God, I'm so hot and I need to rinse my body off. I need to stand up and take a shower in the bath.
Yeah.
So as much as I want that to happen, and then for me, like listening to music is generally going to lead to dancing. I don't know. Like if I hear anything that has any kind of a rhythm or a beat, I'm definitely dancing to it. So I mean, listening to a guided meditation maybe
Yeah. Yeah, you can make it
would
your own.
be
Yeah.
maybe something. Uh-huh. Also for sometimes, like, I don't know about anybody else, but like I love the water. I'm a Scorpio, so I'm a water sign, and I love the water, like hot water, but not in the bath. Like I'll take a really hot shower, but at the same time, as a person who identifies as a woman and has this hairdo, I love being in the shower, but then I realize that after the shower equals another like 30 minutes of work. So then I'm also like, but do I really want to take a shower right now?
Yeah. No, I feel that. I feel that.
If I can take a shower and not have to do anything else, like if I only just have to blow dry my bangs and not anything else, then I can kind of relax. But otherwise, I'm like, ooh, a shower sounds good, but also like kind of a lot of work.
Yeah, so much work. I get that, yeah. Tia, Cassandra, do you want to ask any this or that questions?
Yeah, I can do like three more, possibly two to three. Okay.
Yeah.
So for your work break, a quick walk outside or a short nap?
I cannot take naps. I am the
No.
worst nap taker. At like, I first of all, at the moment I lay down, I think of all the things I should be doing instead of taking a nap. And if I actually do fall asleep, I am not a morning person, and I'm so cranky when I get up. So I have like probably only taken maybe like one nap in this entire definitely go outside. Definitely go outside and hang out with my dog or walk my dog. Or I have chickens, so I'll go in the backyard with the chickens. I love animals, so yeah, definitely go outside.
Yeah, I cannot do power naps. I don't know how people do power naps. It's insane.
I think my
Uh,
husband has narcolepsy. Like
mm.
he falls asleep so fast, like in places where I'm like my daughter came home the other day and was trying to tell him a story about something that happened at work, and he fell asleep in the middle of a sentence. Like said something to her, and then the next thing we heard was, and I'm like, How is that a thing?
Okay, I'll do another one. Evening wind down. Reading a book or watching a movie.
I am hypervigilant, so I don't really know how to wind down. Um, I I I go through spurts with TV and movies, but generally, like I'm still trying to like feed my brain or do something. Right now, I'm trying to learn Spanish. So like when I'm not doing work, I'm trying to understand how to communicate in a whole nother language at almost 50. So that's kind of how I do that.
Yeah, I would do probably, yeah, probably 2 to 3 more.
Sure.
I like doing it quick because that's how I saw it on the internet. So be prepared. Favorite way to disconnect, camping or staycation at home?
Current way to disconnect, is that what you said?
Yeah,
And what was the first option?
camping or staycation at home.
Mm.
Come on.
I love camping. I'm an excellent camper. I have been camping since I was a kid,
Mhm.
but camping is a lot of work on the mom. So I like camping when my sister goes because we both grew up camping together and it's like I cloned myself. So that's fun. We also just bought the hotel in the area that we usually go camping in, so we don't necessarily have to camp anymore. We have um this hotel. But I do enjoy traveling. So I
Definitely the
would
first
definitely
option.
like to get out and go places and explore and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I do love camping. I'm an excellent camper. I could pack like nobody's business. My dad was in the Army, First Cavalry, and taught us how to pack. Like I could fit so much stuff in spaces. But it does tend to be a lot of work. So we've been camping. We take my kids up to the Eastern Sierra. We've been doing that for the last 20 years. And maybe 3 years ago, we got a cabin for the first time, and I realized like, oh, this is so much easier. Like so much easier. And then we bought the hotel. So I think my camping days are over. But I do love it. I do love camping.
Yeah, and probably do the last one. So to boost your mood, you spend time with your pets or engaging in a hobby.
Engage
In a hobby?
in a hobby. Um, Probably right now, the hobby, I started painting. So I took an oil painting class at the rec, the Parks and Rec here, and have been doing a few oil like paintings, and I really like it. It's I have some paintings that my great grandfather did. They're not like great or anything, but he painted when he was in his 90s. He started painting, and so I feel like that's kind of where I am focusing right now. I'm constantly looking for things that I can paint or things that might, like ideas for paintings. I'm looking right now. My best friend, his favorite movie is The Silence of the Lambs, and he posted a painting that someone had done, and I was like, I think I could make that for you. And so I'm currently in the middle of painting a scene from Silence of the Lambs for my best friend.
And creating like a surprise for them.
Well, I showed him, and it's funny
Okay.
because wait, I'll show you. See if you could see it.
Is it graphic? I'm kind of scared.
No, it's just the dog. Can you see it?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's so good. Oh wow.
So the funny thing is that my dog looks kind of like the dog from Silence of the
Oh.
Lambs.
Mhm.
This is like the under, like where she's down inside that well. And my dog sort of looks like the dog. And so when I showed it to my friend, I'm like, I'm not done with it yet, but I'm still working on the dog. And he's like, it looks exactly like your dog. This is amazing. Like a combination, because he knows my dog. He's been my best friend for 15 years. So the combination of his favorite movie and my dog, he's like, oh my God, I love it. But
Yeah, that's great. And
painting, yeah.
we probably like an hour passed like really
Yeah.
quick, and it's kind of the
You're
end of
fine.
our
I
of
have
our
plenty of time.
interview. And yeah, I know we passed time a little bit, but it's really fun to hear about like your stories and like your hobbies and like if your life is really colorful or like filled with different interests
Yeah.
and relations. And yeah, we really appreciate you being here and share your experience with NAMI. I think it'll be also fun for people to watch online. And yeah, and I'll probably end here and thank
Very
you.
inspirational. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you all so much
Thank you.
for what you're doing, for your chosen profession, and please know that you are loved and cared for, you are worthy, you are wanted, and we are grateful for having you be part of our NAMI team, and look forward to all the great stuff y'all do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Mhm.
you. All right. I'll go
Bye.
ahead and
Have a
stop.
great